You are listening to the Young Black Travelers podcast. Black voices conversing in experiential travel, dedicated to a global community of travelers. So be bold, be inspired, be spontaneous. We are YBT.
Welcome and welcome back to the Young Black Travelers podcast. Today we have with us Ashley. And today's episode will be on a Windy City adventure. So there was a one-day trip to Chicago, and Ashley is going to tell us all about it. But before that, we're going to jump into a quick icebreaker. And our questions for these icebreakers are, now, Ashley, you know how this goes. We're going to give you two options. You have to choose one, not both. You
Can
ready?
I plead the fifth?
No, you can't plead the fifth. Are you ready?
Something like that, yeah. Let's
Okay. Here we go. So, based off lifestyle and personal preference, would you do sneakers or sandals?
I'm usually, it's for me, it's like all or nothing. So I'm either a heel or a sneaker. So if I had to choose between sneakers and sandals, I'd choose sneakers.
Okay, perfect. All right. Food-wise, do you prefer
Everything.
coffee or tea?
Tea. I don't like coffee. I'm very specific about the coffee I drink. I can only drink one type of coffee and it can't barely taste like coffee.
Oh, okay. All right. Then street food or fine dining?
Fine dining.
Fine dining?
Give me a surf and turf. Give me a lobster. Yeah.
Got you. Okay. So, would you prefer summer in Chicago or winter?
Summer.
Summer? All right.
They call it the Windy City for a reason. Brick.
Brick City. All right. So then, would you prefer deep dish pizza or Chicago style hot dog? Mhm.
Maybe I should reserve my opinions about the hot dog for later.
Okay.
I want to say neither, but if I had to choose, I would choose the hot dog.
The hot dog? Okay.
But I want to go on record for saying both.
Uh-huh.
Chicago pizza is not touching New York pizza, first of all. Secondly, the hot dog did too much, but we'll talk about that later.
Okay, we'll save the details for later. All right. Next one is, would you prefer an outdoor adventure in Chicago or a museum day?
Due to my very short attention span, I'm not a museum person, so I do whatever other outdoor activity.
Okay.
If I had to choose between the museum, because 5 minutes in a museum and I have to get out, like.
Okay. So, would you prefer tourist merch or local art?
Tourist merch.
Okay. And now that you've done the trip, would you prefer to do early morning starts or late night adventures?
Early morning start.
Okay. And I have two more. Let's see. Would you prefer more eating or more sightseeing next time?
Probably more sightseeing.
Okay. All right. And then one more. Would you prefer to plan it out more or just wing it more?
Definitely plan it out more.
Okay.
So that I can see more in the space of time. So winging it kind of leaves too much room for error, and also if you're trying to figure things out like as you're going along, you're not maximizing the time. So definitely I would like to like plan the whole thing out, and I can make adjustments, which is actually what happened with this trip.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Okay, so we'll wrap that up for our this or that icebreaker segment. Now that we are all warmed up, I'm going to take a quick pause right here and then we're going to jump into our main conversation. Okay, so welcome back. And now we are going to jump into the meat of our episode. So, really quickly, I'm just going to ask Ashley to just tell us about herself and we'll jump into how this 1 day trip in Chicago came about.
So I have been a member of YBT since, and when I say member, I mean like part of like the committee and the board, since like just after it began. My role had changed multiple times, but currently I am the co-lead for the events team. So that's actually how this trip came about. We were planning events for the year and it was recommended that we can literally go to Chicago early in the morning, do a bunch of activities and come home for a very small cost. And I was just like, absolutely. So it actually was an event team endeavor, um, so that we can create content for YBT and but also try out such an adventurous thing. And Chicago was on my list of places that I wanted to go. Um, when I'm not jet setting about the country, I am a elementary school teacher, which is fun, very fun.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for sharing a little about who you are, your background, and how you relate to YBT. And so, after after you guys chose Chicago, like what was the mindset going into this 1 day trip? Like give us the details of how it went and what you liked or didn't like.
So the whole idea for the trip came because someone who is also a member of YBT saw that someone else did it on social media. She
Mhm.
found a TikTok where someone did the exact same thing where they got like a early morning flight to Chicago. And since Chicago is not far by flight, it's about a 2 hour or so flight. Um, it made perfect sense. And then you were able to do as many things as possible and then get like the latest possible flight to come back. So you're only in Chicago for a few hours, but you're able to do a lot of things. Um, and so when we decided to do that, the first thing we did was, well, we want to figure out what are the places that we should primarily hit while we're in Chicago. And we figured that out by using ChatGPT. So shout out to ChatGPT. We typed in spend a day in Chicago, and ChatGPT gave us a lot of options for um, food that is native and particular to Chicago. It gave us options for activities and that would be easily accessible to get to by Uber or and not like too far spread out across the state. Um, and we just wanted to make sure that we hit up iconic spots. We wanted to make sure that we tasted like iconic foods that are native to Chicago. We wanted to make sure that we saw like the huge like attractions that people typically go to, and then just fill our day with things that we could boldly say like we spent a significant amount of time in Chicago even though we didn't. And I believe that we were successful in doing that. Our flight left Newark Airport at around 5 a.m. So we arrived to Chicago um, after like a little bit after 7, almost 8 o'clock. And that was perfect timing for us to grab breakfast. And then we walked around the city and we hit up some iconic sites. Then we grabbed lunch and then we ended the day with some more, walking around the city, doing different things. And then we ended the evening with the signature Chicago hot dog. And then we came right back to Newark. We were home by about midnight.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Awesome. So, to dive a little bit into the details, you took a flight,
Yes.
and then when you got there, when you got off the flight and started walking around, what was the first thing you noticed about the city?
Um, so when we got off the flight, we immediately jumped in an Uber. But as we were driving around, even though it's a city, comparable to New York City, it still didn't seem very like hustle and bustle like New York City.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anywhere in the United States is as busy and like
New York.
jam packed with people as New York City is. So once we got out of the Uber and we were in just like local neighborhoods and getting food and things like that, it was very quiet. We were in the city, but it was a Saturday morning and it was extremely quiet. And I'm thinking that if I were to go to Times Square on a Saturday morning, there's no like it would still be jam packed with
Yep.
people. You would
Yep.
hear cars honking and all of that. We were in like very open like city areas, clearly very city, very metropolitan, but it was nowhere near as busy as New York.
Okay. All right. And when you got there, was it as windy as they claim it to be?
Yes. So we went on November 1st, which is not winter yet,
Mm-hmm.
but it was a little chilly, especially when there was shade.
Okay.
So if you were in the sun, it wasn't that bad. I was wearing a leather jacket and a turtleneck sweater, and I was fine. I wasn't cold, but when there was shade, for sure, you felt the wind. Like,
Okay.
and especially when we headed to this very famous breakfast spot and we had to line up outside and it was shady in that area, we felt a little bit of a chill, but it wasn't terrible. If you go to Chicago like in winter or February, you will be freezing for sure. So I think we picked a peak time where it was still not frigid.
Okay. Awesome. And how was the experience lining up for breakfast? And, what was it like? What did you eat for breakfast?
So we went to Lou Mitchell's, which is an iconic breakfast spot it's a diner in Chicago. Um, a lot of movies and shows were actually filmed there. So if you look in some shows, I don't remember the name of the show, I will figure it out. But there are some shows that are very popular that have used that restaurant as in some scenes. And we had a typical breakfast. Like I had French toast and eggs and just, typical diner food, but it was so welcoming. Being in the line, there was a line because that is a popular like tourist attraction. Like people come to Chicago, they're going to Lou Mitchell's. And so, but the line went really, really quickly, and the service there was amazing. So, if you're ever in Chicago, you definitely should check out Lou Mitchell's. It was affordable. I think for my entire breakfast, I don't think I paid more than $12. And after you eat, they give everyone like a ice cream as a palate cleanser. I don't know how much ice cream cleanses your palate, but everybody gets like a little, spoonful, a little scoop of ice cream. And they're so warm and nice and welcoming there.
Okay, right. Awesome. Well, then, so after breakfast, what was the next stop? Did you guys chill out for a second?
Oh,
To
there
like,
was no chilling out.
oh, there was no chilling.
It was
All
because
right.
we wanted to maximize the amount of time that we were in Chicago. There wasn't much chilling out. What I will say is that there was a pause in our journey because the two people I was traveling with, another YBT member, Marta Share, and her sister Rachel, they were cold. So they realized that they should have worn a hat and a scarf. And so we spent a bit of time trying to find a place that sells a hat and a scarf. So we tried like a Walgreens, we tried a 7-Eleven, and then finally we found a like a corner store. And the corner store had hats. So we were able to get a hat so that they could be a little more warm as we're traveling through Chicago. The quest for the hat took much longer than I anticipated. And I'm just like, bro, yeah, like we're not gonna be here that long. And I remember saying to them, we spent so much time looking for this hat, you better keep it on the entire trip. Like, bro, like, come on. But the hats were cute. And they were also affordable. But even that, like finding a corner store, a store that says that sells a hat took a while. Like unlike if you hit up like New York City, every corner has those I love New York spots where you can get a hat or a scarf or something. So even that was like, I was like, dang, like there's no bodega. There's no like, no quick spot that you could find a hat. Like you were even gonna be like, man, we have to find like a department store or something. Like it was crazy. But they found it, and then we continued our journey. And we went to the Bean.
Okay.
Which you have to go to the Bean.
Okay.
And so all of our travels like throughout the city were in Ubers, which we split, and the Ubers weren't expensive at all. I think for the entire day, counting the Uber from the airport and the Ubers to each individual spot, I think in total we probably spent $100. Like,
okay. And really quick before you move on, how many of you were there?
It was 3 of us. So it was myself,
Okay.
Marticha, and Rachel. So in total, split between the 3 of us, $100 to see a lot of parts of Chicago. I don't think that is that's bad. Okay. Considering that if you were to take a bus to Pennsylvania and do a trip like this, it would be the same amount of money, because consider the bus ticket, the length of time for the drive, all the attractions and things like that. So that's another thing that appealed to us. Alexa, it's unruly. That's another thing that appealed to us about this trip. So it was that was exciting. So we went to the Bean, we took pictures in front of the Bean, and then from there we decided to grab lunch and then continue on with other activities.
Okay, so I'm a foodie, so I'm gonna ask you, what was for lunch?
Okay, so do you know how New York is known for like the Chinese food on every corner, or the chicken spot on every corner? Well, Chicago has a popular chicken spot called Harold's. Okay. And so we said, all right, we put our New York hats on and we were like, okay, we're going to compare Harold's to your 4 chicken wings and French fries, or your Kennedy fried chicken, or your Crown fried chicken. So, because that's like the equivalent. That's what it's comparable to. Okay. So just like how we have Kennedy's and Crown and like your Chinese spots, they have Harold's. Okay. And so Harold's, I don't know if it's because I'm a native New Yorker, but Harold's is not holding a candle to they can't. Sorry, Harold's can't touch
some beef.
Can't touch New York chicken. Like me going to the Chinese spot and getting 4 chicken wings and French fries and the barbecue sauce, hot sauce, ketchup, or the Kennedy fried chicken or Crown fried. Harold's didn't do it for me. What I will say is that the chicken is seasoned well. Okay. The fries did not taste good on their own. Like the fries themselves were pretty bland to me. Sorry to any Chicagoans listening to this or watching this. Their sauce, like you needed sauce in order to eat the fries. And the sauce was very vinegar based. So it was like a barbecue sauce, but it was very, very, very vinegar based. Unlike the iconic like New York Chinese spot red barbecue sauce, which if it's not red, I don't want it. And I know it's probably dye, but like the red 40 is what makes it what it's supposed to be. So I'm sorry, like, but yeah. So that was Harold's, and it wasn't bad, but it wasn't
for you.
It didn't give what they wanted it to give. I'm sorry, it wasn't giving.
Okay. All right. Well, after you guys had Harold's, where was the next stop? Like,
The next stop was to an African American museum because, we said young Black travelers, you got to represent for the culture. And we wanted to find things that um, would speak to that. And unfortunately, they wouldn't let us record. But we weren't allowed to record. We were allowed to take pictures.
okay.
But just all the different pieces that were like local to that area and just went that spoke a lot about just like African American history in America in general. It did speak to me. I know I previously said that museums are not my thing, and my attention span really took a hit in the museum. So, but it really was great to see the combination of local art and the combination of like how the impact that African Americans had on the country.
Okay. Nice, nice, nice. Okay. And then after the museum, was that it? Did you guys get dinner? Like,
So
what?
after the museum, because I don't want to get in trouble, but I enjoy Starbucks.
Okay.
And so for me, I knew that Chicago was one of the few places that have a Starbucks reserve, and I had never been inside of a Starbucks reserve.
Okay.
And so that is where the next leg of our journey took us. We went to the Starbucks reserve. In the Starbucks reserve, they actually have pastries that are technically discontinued in general Starbucks. They're branded under slightly different names, but they do have some of those pastries, like the almond croissant, which is no longer sold in Starbucks. I don't know why they got rid of it.
Yeah, that was the best thing.
So they have a version of that in the Starbucks Reserve. They have a large array of pastries and foods, and they also have a bar. And so we were able to get cocktails. We had a mango cocktail that actually had a mango popsicle inside. It was very delicious. It was creamy, delicious. And it was 4 floors of just like amazing architecture. The structures were amazing, and just the merch that they sell is not like in typical Starbucks.
Yeah.
You actually had to wait online to get inside because they only let a certain amount of people in at a time, but the line wasn't long.
Okay.
And it was just a really nice vibe. We were able to talk to some people there. We got some people to follow us on Instagram because our phones died and it helped us with the charging. But it was just nice to just converse with the different people there, and like, it was a really nice ambiance, and it wasn't just coffee, which is what Starbucks is known for. So that was really cool. I was really in there trying to get a cup, but
were you successful in getting a cup?
I did not get a cup this time around, but next time I will. Just a little side note, if anyone out there wants to get me a gift, you can get me a Starbucks cup. I collect them, especially from other countries and other but a little side note.
Got it.
I'm joking. Well, I'm not joking. But yeah.
Okay, so overall, what would you say the people of Chicago's vibe was? Was it friendly? Was it busy? Or was it kind of like mind your business kind of energy?
The only place where I see mind your business kind of energy is in New York. Chicago, I'm telling you, random girls helped us with our charger while we were standing in the line. We were talking to a family where the daughter still lives in Chicago and the parents moved away. So while we were standing in the line at the reserve waiting to order our cocktails, like we struck up a lot of friendly conversation. So it's definitely not the hustle and bustle of New York, but it is lively. You do have people on the street playing music. You have street evangelists, just like in New York. There are a lot of things that are just like native to cities that you had, but it definitely wasn't as crowded as New York. The most crowded place was the Bean, and that's for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
People are coming to the Bean with their families and their friends to take pictures, etc. But even then, it wasn't like pushing and shoving crowded. Like it's nothing is as crowded as New York City.
Okay.
Yeah, and so it was really cool to do that, and then also to enjoy some more food after that, because of course we had to try the Chicago hot dog.
And here we go.
The
How
Chicago hot dog.
was it? Describe it. Describe the visuals. Describe the taste. Your face.
First of all, I love hot dogs. I'm not gonna lie. I love me a hot dog. Give me a Sabrett's or a Nathan's. You know, I love a like 100% beef hot dog, not like the hot dogs that are like everything blended up into like
one.
Like I love a good hot dog on a nice brioche bun. Like I like a good hot dog.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what Chicago was thinking when they designed their hot dog. At this point we were kind of like full from all the food we ate, so we bought one hot dog loaded with all of the things that should be on a Chicago hot dog, and we cut it in half.
Okay.
And so myself and Mardashir split the hot dog. And first things first, on a hot dog anywhere else, you're gonna have maybe your ketchup, your mustard, your relish, and maybe some sauerkraut. That's it, right? And then you can take or leave some of those ingredients. For me, on a hot dog, I just need ketchup. If the hot dog meat is like good, like top tier, like a Sabrett or a Nathan's, I just need some ketchup. I don't need nothing else. Don't put no relish on my hot dog. Don't put no sauerkraut, nothing. Let me tell you the 20 million ingredients. And then I felt so like inauthentic because I wanted to not order all the ingredients, but I was just like, nah, like to get the full effect, I have to have it loaded with all of the things that are typically loaded. The only thing I was like is a non-negotiable for me was mustard. I was like, I don't like mustard. Please, like, I'll leave everything else on there, but please don't put the mustard. And so on this hot dog was ketchup, pickles, like not relish, like actual like what do you call those? The cornichons or whatever, like the small pickles, like they look like the size
little
of
tiny ones.
Yeah, like sliced in half. There were peppers. There were onions. There was some other kind of sauce. Okay. And there were tomatoes.
Tomatoes.
That is where they lost me. This is not a burger. Like that is where they lost me with the tomatoes. And so I took one bite, and then also the hot dog itself had a very different taste than I'm used to. So the actual like sausage link was in like it just had like a different kind of texture and taste than what I'm used to. And so I literally said, and I can probably share the video and they could post it on the Instagram, where I was just like, Chicago does too much. Like it was just a lot to navigate. Taking a bite out of that hot dog, it was just, I didn't know what I was going to be tasting and when, because it was just several different things happening. And I was just like, this is unnecessary. You're messing up the integrity of the hot dog. But yeah, that was the gist of the trip. We actually ended the day with the hot dog. We were gonna go get dinner, but we were like, oh, we're not really hungry. Let's just head back to the airport, so that we don't miss our flight. And that was it.
That was it. Wow. Okay. Wow. So, would you go back?
Yes, and plug, we are actually going back. So in 2025, Young Black Travelers is planning to return to Chicago for another day trip. This is actually something that we after we did that 1 day trip, we were like, we have to do more. There are 50 states, and they are accessible by plane, and the flights are not, most of them, the flights are not that long.
Okay.
And so actually not next Saturday, this Saturday, we'll be doing the same thing in Atlanta. We're going back to Chicago later on this year, I think around November, so that we can have like similar weather, and we're avoiding like the windiness of the windy city. And then we also plan on doing New Orleans, Portland, Oregon, and I believe that's it for now. But um we definitely always invite our tribe members to join on these trips because they're really, really fun. Um, and it's very simple to get an itinerary for a trip like this. So even if you wanted to do this on your own, I highly recommend it. All we did was we typed into ChatGPT like activities, and then even when we got there, because it was just the three of us, it was easy for us to change our minds on certain things. Like, so we had an idea of what we wanted for breakfast, but by the time we got off the plane, we asked around like, okay, we don't want to just go to somewhere just to say we went somewhere. We want to go somewhere that is like authentic to Chicago, like to be like, okay, this is like a bucket list destination if you're going to Chicago. And so that's how the flight attendants and the the airport, people that work in the airport, they definitely recommended Lou Mitchell's. They told us where certain things were, and we were able to plan our day based on that. But yeah, I highly, highly, highly recommend a trip like this. It was fun, and you're not spending a lot of money. The key appeal to this was the fact that you're not checking a bag, you're not packing any luggage. Like, you just your pocketbook or your wallet and your phone. So you're not like going through like this whole big clearance in the airport and everything like that. It's just walk in, get on the plane, walk off the plane, and jet set about the state, and then go back home.
Okay. Well, awesome. Well, there you have it, everyone. The 1 day trip to the Windy City. We're going to take another quick break, and then when we come back, we'll hear some final thoughts, a quick advice, and then we'll get 2 rapid fire answers, and that will wrap us all up. Welcome back, everyone, and we are about to wrap things up with our 1 day trip to the Windy City. So, Ashley, before we wrap things up, what is one tip for someone taking a 1 day trip?
As I mentioned before, you definitely want to know what you're planning on doing before you get there, as early as possible, because you want to maximize the amount of time. You want to maximize the amount of things you're doing in that time. So, easy ways to do that is to use AI, and it will definitely give you an idea of what to do, and it'll take into account the amount of time that you're there and tell you like key attractions to visit. We did use ChatGPT to come up with the itinerary, and that's just because you want to, the minute you get off the plane, you want to hit the ground running. This way you're doing as many things as possible before you get back on the plane. Yeah, so all together we had breakfast, we walked around, we even got to see like a train station which is comparable to like Grand Central. Then we had lunch, we went to a museum, we went to the Bean, we had the hot dog, and then so that was like a fully packed day because we went into it with an idea of what we wanted to do. Because if you're spending time trying to figure out what you want to do, you lose a lot of time that way.
Okay, awesome. Okay, next up, Do you have anyone to shout out or any businesses to shout out? Like while you were there, would you make any recommendations based off your one day?
Definitely Lou Mitchell's. And to find them on Instagram, I don't want to say or spell it wrong. It's Lou Mitchell's 565. So LOUMITCHELLS 565. The food was amazing, but more importantly, the ambiance, the service, the staff, like they were so welcoming. And I know that it's like a tourist attraction and it gets hit with a lot of people, but you would never like they were in such great spirits and so welcoming that you would think that it's just like, you know, local mom and pop shop that like people just come to, but it was amazing. The line was long, but the line being long is a testament to how great the food is. But the line goes really quickly. So I definitely want to shout them out. Also, and I'm going to butcher this, I want to shout out. So it was myself and another YBT committee member that went, and then her sister came along with us. I do want to shout her out because she is opening a restaurant in Connecticut. So definitely check her out. I don't speak French, so this is not going to sound the way. So please, if you speak French, please charge it to my head and not my heart. Please, I'm sorry. So her Instagram handle is Sur Ma Table. I'm going to spell it because I know that was not... I took Spanish in high school. I didn't take French. I'm sorry. So it's SURMATABLE. So please follow her on Instagram, and she is definitely opening a restaurant. She's my good friend, and she made the trip to Chicago all the more greater. So yeah. Oh, her name is Rachel, by the way. So I'll call her Rachel and not try to say her Instagram handle again because that was bad.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Ashley, for
welcome.
telling us about the day trip, how it came about, and I am excited to see the results of the next trip to Atlanta. We'll have you guys back to debrief us again.
Awesome.
All right, everyone. If you've been to Chicago, you can share your favorite spots with us on social media. You can share it on our Instagram or our YouTube or wherever you can find us. On Instagram, we are the Young Black Travelers blog. So go there, share your responses with us, and keep us posted. Also, thank you all for listening to our podcast. If you are interested in following us, you can find us on Instagram at the Young Black Travelers blog. And you can find us on Apple Podcasts. You can find us on SoundCloud. You can find us on TikTok too, I believe. Yes, TikTok also.
All of the things.
All of the plugs. And yes, share your experiences with us. We would love to hear from you. We'd love to hear of the different trips you've been on, whether it's solo or with family or with groups. And we look forward to hearing from you. And we will catch you all next time.